Let us speak with Mr. Sunday Dare right now, who's Special Advisor to the President on Media and Communications. It's good to see you in our studios. Welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning. Let's start with this. It's not very popular, but oftentimes, one of the ways you can look at whether a country is making progress in a democracy is when you look at the state of human rights. Whether a country is making progress in a democracy is when you look at the state of human rights in that country. And just yesterday, the National Human Rights Commission published its new findings on the state of the rights of people within Nigeria. And I think the last one we had seen was in May 2025, when they reported a 5% increase in complaints compared to April, with a total of 275,256 complaints. And they also spoke to something that they said, which I found very interesting, was on the issue of religious freedoms, right, which had come up before now. And I think that Nigeria had to speak up to defend, particularly internationally. And here's what they had to say with the issue of religious freedoms.
Based on our analysis, it is safe to say that the freedom of religion came under heavy attack in the month of July from Edo State, where gunmen kidnapped and killed students of minor seminary, killing the security officer, abducting the three. The three seminarians are still in captivity as we speak. In Plateau State, 2 evangelists were killed. In Kaduna State, 5 worshippers were killed during church meeting. In Niger State, we also experienced kidnapping of a pastor. And then in Benue, a church leader and 3 others were killed in attacks in Gwa East.
So that's a report from the National Human Rights Assessment Dashboard. I think that's actually for the month of July, not May. So what would you say to those who are looking at our country right now and saying that, look, every month on month, it does appear that in our democracy, some people say it's still relatively young, but should be growing and making progress. We're still not seeing, will I say, a commensurate increase in the state of human rights in our country?
Well, I think the starting point would be that this is a vast country with a huge population. And then you look at the size of our police force, because when it comes onto human rights, yes, right abuses do occur, like you find in other countries. Nigeria is no exceptional. Not with our data in isolation. You deal with global statistics. And it will surprise you what you find. Even in America, you have the ICE right now, immigrations, picking illegal immigrants. We see rights violations. I think what's important is, are the institutions of state in place and are they functional? Do we have justice being meted out as soon as these violations occur? And I think that when you look at the data now compared to previous years, especially from the military era and post-military era, we've seen an improvement. But again, a diverse population, a huge population for the matter, a police force that needs to be increased in number. Because what helps to reduce these rights violations is first, the security forces. Second, the judiciary. Does the institution in place help to address this? Because when you met out punishments in a timely fashion, when cases go to court and they are dealt with, people know that there will be repercussions and the rights will reduce. Then you talked about the Christians, religious rights. And I know that when 3 months ago we had the issue of a Christian that was supposed to be killed by hanging, you recall. Of course, that has been stopped for now. This issue came up in the US Congress, and the Foreign Affairs Office did respond and came out with data. These are exceptions. They are not the rule. And when you look at Plateau, for instance, I think they were talking about Plateau.
Yeah, they also spoke about Plateau.
I was born in Plateau.
Yeah.
I grew up, I lived over 3 decades in Plateau. The crisis in Plateau has been on for over 2 decades. Every single president has come on. And even just this morning, we've also had reports about what happened. Now, if we have to talk about the issue in Plateau, we will not leave here this morning. But I think sometimes to have peace, you need the stakeholders from all parties and sides to really sit down and agree to a peace plan. The government can only do much if you have the stakeholders come together. And I think what we've seen in Plateau is, to a large extent, the Christians talk about the atrocities. I found out that you have IDP camps in Plateau. We have Hausa Fulani people who also have casualties and deaths and villages burnt, just as you have IDPs for the indigenous people. So it's a tit for tat, and the government comes in as a mediator. Now, unless these two sides really agree to a peace plan, the killings we are talking about, and I don't think that there's a deliberate attempt to obliterate the Christians. What is the fight about? The farmer-idlers clash is mostly about land and economic rights, etc. It boils down to economic issues.
So, well, the words of the NHRC official who spoke there, he said that religious rights came under heavy attack. I mean, just this morning, we're looking at daily trust newspapers. Katsina mosque killing, we were attacked during prayers. I imagine that for the next month, when the NHRC is doing its dashboard again, this will feature as a religious rights that has been infringed upon. Because how can people be praying and they come under heavy attack?
Unfortunately, that's been a commentary for over 3 decades in this country, this issue of religion, and it's because of the role religion plays in our polity. In a way, we have elevated religion to such a level that we don't pay attention to other things that are critical. We become intolerant as a people. And that's why we find when you have two strong religions competing for attention.
Is this a matter of intolerance, or this is a matter of safety and security? Because you also said something about, improving the issue of justice, access to justice. Give you an instance. This is the Vanguard this morning. U.S. report raises concerns over security, justice in Nigeria. If you look at the writers, identifies lengthy pretrial detention, delays.
So let's take security, for instance.
Yes.
And let me take off from what happened over the weekend when we have the Ansaru sect leaders, 2 of them, Al-Nigeria and Mahmoud al-Mahmouda, they were arrested of the very dreaded terrorist gang. We had the U.S. mission in Nigeria commend the Nigerian security forces and the Nigerian government that this is a significant whatever. This wouldn't have happened within a few days. It's been a continuous one. We've had our security forces bring down and neutralize more than 1,300 such leaders over time. When it comes to security, it's a progression. There's no silver bullet to it. But I want to also tie it to judiciary. Of course, we know there are more than 2 reforms, judiciary reforms taking place, enabled by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to deal with either pre-trial delays and etc. So these reforms are ongoing. You can't take them in isolation. And I know I did respond to Vanguard. If you read that, you will see my response.
I was just going to say that you actually did a response to that particular situation. And of course, when it comes to these killings across the country, it also, one other thing that maybe doesn't help with the narrative is also the fact that the governors in these states keep talking about how this is a genocide. This is not a farmer, this is not a quarrel. This is a deliberate attempt to take over our lands. It is a deliberate thing.
So the question then arises, who is the chief security officer of the states?
The governor is.
Because I remember once, not twice, I remember the president saying, the governors have to take charge.
Okay.
Are the governors at top of the situation? Are they taking the necessary steps? Are they neutral? I know neutrality becomes extremely difficult if you're from that state and your people are being attacked ceaselessly. But I think there's a role for subnationals, because it is not for just the fun of it that governors in our constitution are made the chief security officers. Now, if your security apparatus within the state fails you, you have that opportunity and chance to request appropriate support from the center. Is that happening, or are the governors themselves living in self-denial? Because each time it happens, they run to Abuja or cry to. The question is, what have you done in your state to nip this in the bud? The understanding is that the governors understand better.
Because they're on ground.
Because they're on ground.
Okay.
Now, they're taking the necessary steps, preemptive, because what you have happen all the time is when it happens, we hear the noise, we see the newspaper headlines. What have you done before? And when it comes to security, it's about being preemptive, not reactive thereafter.
I want to be able to get you, just a moment, Mark. You responded. I saw your article on your face. Actually, I follow you on Facebook, so I basically, you respond to everything. So Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's visit.
Absolutely.
And you said earlier last week, 2 validations came from both the Anambra State Governor, Dr. Soludo, and Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. And of course, it does feel, and it's not just you, other people who are spokespersons of the president. It's like you take the first part of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's statement and forget the second part.
I did address the second part.
Because the second part of that thing is the most important part of it, where she says that safety nets need to be...
I did address it. If you scroll down...
So I look, you put up NEL Fund. You said you mentioned NEL Fund as one of the safety nets.
So let me speak to the social safety nets.
Okay, so that's the question. What safety nets are in place? And do you agree with her that there have to be more safety nets to cushion the impact of these important policies on the Nigerian people?
Absolutely. I agree with her on 2 grounds. The first ground is the fact that the macroeconomic stability we now enjoy is as a result of the reforms, the Bola Ahmed Tinubu reforms, which the World Bank itself has said those reforms were done in an anticipatory manner. If not, we will have suffered more impact as it is. So the reforms were timely as they came in. And we see the macroeconomic stability now. The figures are there, the reserves, the GDP going up, the 486 billion naira GDP as we see it. We see these green lights ahead. So I agree with her. And given credentials, you know that she has the numbers, and she must have also worked on the numbers. The other part of safety, social safety nets, that speaks more to the micro of the macro reforms you're getting. Beyond NEL Fund, I'm going to just stretch it a little bit. When you talk about social safety nets, you're talking about policies and programs that impact the people. And when you look at other climes too, safety nets refers to, for instance, you look at the conditional cash transfer. It's gone to about 5 million. What we need to do is that at least it has to go to between 10 and 15 million people before that comes. So that's why we need to do more. But right now, the government is on the right track. 5 million has gone out. We're going to stretch that further. That's one. 2, you look at NEL Fund. Don't let us just walk over it, because before NEL Fund, there was nothing. So when you have about 400,000, 86 billion going to support the students in school, and you have 36 billion as stipends. The last time we had bursary was several years ago. That's the safety net there somewhere. The support going to the ginger farmers, 1.5 billion. The 500,000 young farmers, smallhold farmers, collecting direct support. That's part of NEL Fund. Talk about yesterday. You talk about the CS. CS is now free. Then you talk about the kidney dialysis, brought down from 50,000 to 12,000, a 75% reduction. That's social safety net. So when you understand the concept of social safety net, it's trying to subsidize some of the important things that the Nigerian people deal with on a daily basis. And do I agree that this needs to be scaled up? Absolutely. And we see a president committed to doing that.
I mean, it's a very dicey one, especially when we look at the economic situation in the country. You hear this every day. You're being trolled on Twitter a lot,
absolutely,
on X a lot. But it's understandable. That's how governance is.
Right.
The economic situation of the Nigerian has dwindled. You cannot pretend that that is not the case.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at the quality of the life of the Nigerian in the past 2 years, it has dropped. And I hear the government, I hear you and other spokespersons of the president saying, look, this is growing pains. We're doing what we can. It's stabilized. We're on the road to recovery.
Absolutely.
The question is, can the Nigerian people trust that if they give you the elections again in 2027, can they trust that their lives will be better under this administration?
Absolutely. Oftentimes they say the morning shows the day. This first time is 4 years for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And in 4 years, we've just been halfway 2 years. And in those 2 years, at this point, we can point to about 10, green positive indicators. Typically, I like to talk about building a house. You want a beautiful house, okay? Air conditioned, well equipped. So you have a choice to pay attention to the foundation. And the foundation is often destructive. You break the ground, you break the rock, you mix the concrete. You have a choice to do it properly so that the house you build eventually will stand firm, whatever you put on it, the superstructure that comes on it. And it might look simplistic, but I'm saying that if you look at the trajectory of the Nigerian economy in the last 20 years, you start to wonder. We're in Japan right now. Japan is the 4th largest economy in the world, 4.2 trillion GDP. Nigeria is still at 485 GDP right now. We're trying to shoot for 1 trillion. We have to take certain steps to get there. You can't eat eggs without breaking omelette. Now, you have a president who has taken those tough decisions. And I know people have had this over and over again. And we often say, you see the cup half empty. You either see the cup half empty or half full. And right now, I see the cup half full because we have progressive policies. We have a commitment on the part of the president. We also have indicators that have been saluted, not by Okonjo-Iweala, but by the World Bank and Blue Bank and other bodies who ordinarily are reputed for giving very clear verdicts about what's going on.
Mr. Derry, I would like to say that for me, I see several cups. And yes,
I'm looking at one cup, right?
No, several cups. And I think it will be left to Nigerians to aggregate what is in these separate cups,
right.
As to which cup is full or which cup is filling up and which cup is actually emptying down. But one of the areas, and I have to circle back to the issue of security,
all right.
Because the institutions that are actually measuring these instances around security and the dignity of life, some of them are Nigerian institutions. And what they're seeing is not progress. What they're actually seeing are things that should give all of us cause for concern, especially with regards to the security and the foundational nature of our country. Will we survive, for instance, another 50, 100 years as Nigeria? These are questions that, fundamental questions that people are asking, because first and foremost, people want to know if they can go about their duty. If the fundamental role of government is to provide for the safety, the security and welfare
it is. That's
of the citizens.
Right.
And we're seeing the NHRC, the National Human Rights Commission, reporting a spike in killings of children, of elderly, especially vigilantes and children, spiking killings. And we're also seeing complaints of human rights, violations, increasing by as much as 10% month on month. They do this thing on a monthly basis.
You know what I also said?
Shouldn't we be concerned? I mean, while we can be making some progress economically speaking, if our security, there'll be questions there.
I think we've left the Jeopardy zone. Mope, if you back up perhaps some 5, 6 years, even from the former president Jonathan's era, when we had the Boko Haram, we had the Sambisa forest, this entire country was under a heavy insecurity cloud. So you take it from that time to where we are now. And I think the human rights group ought to do a comparison. I'm saying that we've seen an improvement. The issue of security, there's no silver bullet. Progressively, that will be addressed. But when you also look at other countries, beyond our data comparison from 5, 10 years ago, can you look at other countries within the region? The issue of human rights abuses do occur, will occur. But the response of the necessary institutions, judiciary, security, is what matters. And I think that's what should be our focus. Can you stop people from committing crimes? In spite of the fact that there are laws, there are punishments, there's a penal code, people still commit crimes. So our interrogations should stay with the security agencies.
But there's also the root cause. let me give you, as we're wrapping up, because we need to address that.
Yeah.
Let's say with the World Food Program, let's use that as an example.
Right.
We're seeing from the United Nations a complaint basically telling us that we are moving our country into a situation where our youth will enter into the open arms of Boko Haram because of the poverty levels in places in the north.
You know, that prediction, we've seen it.
It's a prediction that they've just made,
done it
and it's
several
because of the
times.
cancellation of the funding for the World Food Program. So hunger is rife, and we're entering into a food insecurity situation. What kind of safety nets can the government be putting in place at this moment to help that situation, so that we do not come here 5 years later and say the numbers of Boko Haram recruits have increased? Of course, this is the problem that led to that.
Well, you know, we did not know that we'll wake up suddenly and find a president of a leading country in the world withdraw support from global organizations that have helped, you know, and I'm being a bit diplomatic here, not putting out the name. So every country is responding. Health, all the funding coming from health have reduced. Funding coming for food supply have reduced, USAID, and all of that. So Nigeria finds itself in that position. But let me also say, when you look at how much has been budgeted in the 2025 budget alone for agriculture, when you look at, I know there's 10,000 tractors, 2,000 tractors have come in, when you look at that. When you look at the funding going to the agricultural sector, when it comes to smallholds, individual farmers, when you look at the return of the commodity boards, you see very well planned effort towards boosting food production. And I think what's important is the urban-rural drift that we want to achieve. But let me say this. On August 13th, in Council, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu announced a new program, Renewed Hope World Development Program, targeting 8,940 words, directing governors to ensure that at least 1,000 young enterprises are carried along and funded. For me, I think that is revolutionary because it signals that this country is moving from mere consumption to production. And that production will be in agriculture, will be in several other areas. I think if that is well implemented, we might be able to address not just the issue of food scarcity, but also the issue of the security, the issue of our young people who are out there doing nothing, because this is a great opportunity. 8,940 words, 1,000 jobs. You do the math, it's revolutionary.
Well, Mr. Sunday, we certainly will keep tabs with you because this is ongoing. We have to thank you so much for coming to our studios this morning.
Thank you.
Mr. Sunday is a special advisor to the President on media and communications.